Did you know Persona, that anime-style role-playing series, is actually just a small part of a traditional dungeon-crawling franchise from Japan? Ever since it became mainstream, Persona would scrub its more horror-themed origins out of its title. But anybody who has followed these games a little longer will know they have once been spin-offs in a series called Shin Megami Tensei. Yet many people might not know what SMT is all about. And considering that Persona is only one out of multiple spin-offs, this franchise can look overwhelming to newcomers. Which is why this video is gonna cover all you need to know to either get into the series or to catch up with the essentials, with a particular perspective on what's officially available outside of Japan with English translations. First, what is SMT about? These games usually are pretty tough dungeon crawlers in which you recruit demons from various myths and religions in post-apocalyptic set pieces, while making a few moral decisions along cryptic storylines which position you either on the side of chaos or law. However, the respective sides are decidedly not good or evil, both usually leading to macabre outcomes, unless you are good enough to receive a neutral ending. With your always changing party of demons, you try to conquer these horror-themed set pieces in turn-based fashion. However, grinding experience points alone will not be sufficient. You have to rely on good preparation and the right strategy before heading out into these wastelands and huge dungeons. In most cases, that means that you have to build a smart team of demons, which covers all your bases depending on the situation. While many of these games are bleak, there's still a weird sense of humor, in particular because you have to communicate with these insane demons to progress. All these elements make for an engaging gameplay loop, only elevated by strong and unique atmosphere. Yet, despite a similar foundation, you will find that these games, which are often standalone stories, can be very different to suit a variety of preferences. At its core, the series contains numbered mainline games. Outside of Japan, SMT only started to become a thing with Part 3, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. This true classic is now easily available as an HD remaster. What these main games have in common is that some kind of post-apocalyptic Tokyo serves as the backdrop. Part 3 is particularly oppressive as apart from the protag and a few other characters, all people have been annihilated. In addition, this game introduced the franchise-defining press-turn combat system, meaning if you hit an enemy with the right elemental spell, you get an extra move. But enemies also have the ability to steal your turns if you carry a team of bad weaknesses. That sounds simple, but makes for an engaging battle system where the tides can always turn and you have to stay focused. Part 4 on Nintendo 3DS continued with the same combat style, but the mood was quite different. Its backdrops channeled older Japan-exclusive SMT games where more survivors inhabit Tokyo. Battle animations went back to 2D, which was a little jarring. On the other hand, the game was boasting a magnificent synthwave soundtrack, which helped to bring the tone together after the prior series artist Kazuma Kaneko left and the new art direction was a little all over the place. Unfortunately, European fans these days need to find alternative ways to play the original release. Over here, it only came out in the now defunct 3DS online store. Hooray for digital marketplaces! Anyway, what followed was a worldwide physical release for the story expansion Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, of which I am personally not a huge fan of. It's the first SMT game outside of Persona, where the influences of said Persona games and their success felt noticeable. While the game design of SMT4 remained intact, the writing and atmosphere didn't rely on horror and isolation like before, but on comedy and anime cliches like the power of friendship and so on. Still, the gameplay loop remained engaging. SMT5 tried to fuse both presentation styles. While going back to a demon-ridden wasteland of the third game, it also has gotten a much more vibrant art direction. In a new twist, the more intimate dungeon crawling was mostly replaced by a kind of sandbox exploration. If nothing else, SMT5 is a milestone for the franchise because it received a simultaneous release worldwide for the first time. At first for Nintendo Switch, but a couple of years later, in another unprecedented move, an enhanced port became a full multi-platform release, making it the most widely available SMT game. Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey on Nintendo DS was intended as part 4 of the main series, but redeclared as a side game. This is because instead of visiting yet another destroyed Tokyo, Strange Journey presents a demonic dimension inside a black hole, where forms of human excess like pollution or world war manifest. It's a traditional first-person dungeon crawler, which demands full concentration from players, because its labyrinth map is tough as nails to really drive home the feeling of being trapped in a deadly other world. Instead of press turn, strategy making revolves around your alliance to either chaos or law, which creates extra attacks. Many SMT games are pretty bleak, but Strange Journey to me always felt like the most mature, apart from its themes, maybe also because of the adult and international cast of characters. There was a remaster on Nintendo 3DS, which sadly undermined this feeling slightly, as it removed the old art direction in favor of something that looks more like Persona, including new characters that don't really fit the mood. It's also a shame that despite having an international cast, this remaster would only get Japanese voicing, even though the English dubs of this series are pretty good. At the very least, it made the core game better available. By the way, as a promotion gimmick, they once released a free Strange Journey platforming adventure game in the vein of Metroidvania called Synchronicity, which is quite fantastic. It has been taken down on the original website, but can still be found on the internet. Digital Devil Saga is a duology of PS2 games with digital PS3 ports, which tell one long story, like 2 TV show seasons, where characters are trapped in a kind of Hindu sci-fi world in which they must kill and devour each other to reach Nirvana. Both games feature truly unique story premises and atmosphere. Personally, I could never really vibe with the gameplay because it removed the demon collecting, reduced battle customization overall, and made the battles much slower with a painfully high random encounter rate. But I have to be fair, this sub-series has many fans and was well received at the time. Its mood does make up for a lot. Also on PS2 and on the PS3 digitally, there was Devil Summoner Raidu 1 and 2. Both games have a lighter but still unique atmosphere as you solve mysteries in early 20th century Japan, featuring beautiful pre-rendered backgrounds and a jazzy tone. Above all, the games stand out with real-time combat. On the one hand, it works like a typical action game, with lots of button mashing for light and heavy attacks. At the same time, you can always stop the fight to issue commands to your demons, which works surprisingly well. Somewhat like the Final Fantasy VII remake, except SMT did it much earlier. The very first Devil Summoner title on Sega Saturn never came out here, but a port of the second game, Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, did on 3DS. As an old-school first-person dungeon crawler with cyberpunk leanings, it has not much in common with the PS2 games, except that it also doesn't play out post-apocalypse. As one of the oldest SMT games you can buy in English, it's lacking a few quality-of-life features of later games. Which is why, as a complete newcomer, you might want to resort to some outside tutorials. Even though, to veterans, it's actually one of the easier and shorter iterations, with its main selling point being a strong 90s cyberpunk atmosphere. Fans of movies like the first Ghost in the Shell will get their money's worth, as the game once came out exactly at the same time when sci-fi was accompanied by imaginations of mysterious cyberspaces on the newly emerging internet. In an unexpected turn of events, Soul Hackers would get a sequel decades later. Compared to the original's distinct 90s cyberpunk tone and first-person dungeon crawling, this game felt more like an iteration of Persona, with a much more stylized and bright art direction, slight social links and third-person exploration. But because it didn't have the budget of Persona, both fans of that series and fans of the original Soul Hackers would usually describe the game as okay-ish, not really a must-play. The Devil Survivor games on Nintendo DS, also ported to 3DS, are the Tactics spin-offs. Much in the style of Final Fantasy Tactics, you play a mix of chess and JRPG, but the encounters on the field are not automated like in similar games, but result in turn-based SMT battles. Tokyo is put into a 7-day lockdown, from which only a handful of survivors can emerge. Through a big amount of visual novel type choices, you have an enormous impact on the survival of the characters, which creates tons of different endings. Because I couldn't stand some of these quirky anime guys, I quite enjoyed throwing them under the bus. Beyond that, despite its colorful looks, Devil Survivor might feature some of the hardest RPG fights you might ever find. Surprisingly enough, there is no such thing as a bad SMT game, at least from what's localized. The biggest hassle being multiple games stuck on legacy platforms. If nothing else, the easily available SMT3 is among the most well-rounded games of the franchise and provides a good grasp of what it is about. Apart from that, where you start is actually up to your preferences for story premise and gameplay style. Due to the franchise's long niche existence before Persona, there's glaring gaps in what games are officially available outside of Japan. Nevertheless, what got released still makes for a packed library of games, including many cult classics for fans of hardcore RPGs and horror-themed games. If you belong to the latter, or if Persona leaves you wanting for more, I highly recommend catching up with SMT.